Good day, gentlemen. Dirk here with another episode of the MGTOW Solution. A viewer recently posted a link to a video titled A Warning to Women Everywhere by a creator named Permission to Exist. Link in the show notes. Thanks to Rory for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate it. At first glance, I was going to simply reject it as yet another example of the backlash against MGTOW, but then I decided to do a response because this woman is warning women, particularly young women, about the danger of men deciding to remain single. Since I'm warning men about the dangers of getting married, I thought it might prove interesting to look at the counterpoint. Her arguments are based upon a portion of a MGTOW video from a creator I'm not familiar with, but I'm going to focus on her video, not his. She starts off by stating that MGTOW is very dangerous and a pathogen in our society, causing great damage, malignant narcissism. I can only speak for myself here, as usual, and state that nothing I've ever said on this channel could be construed as dangerous. Nothing I've said has caused any damage, let alone great damage. I've shared my experiences and observations, and cited my reasons for recommending that men avoid marriage or letting women dominate their lives. But the choice is theirs, and as I've said before, if a man decides to get married, I wish him well. But the risks to men are very real, and they have a right to be fully informed before making such a life-changing commitment. The only danger involved is for the man, actually. I've damaged no one by going my own way. As for her malignant narcissism comment, that's a pot calling the kettle black example if I've ever seen one. And sure, you can probably find some examples of narcissism in the MGTOW community, but suggesting that MGTOW in general are narcissists while ignoring that narcissism is so common in women almost made me laugh. Then she contradicts herself by stating, I have no problem with the MGTOW movement. I think it's great. I think it's healthy. But she goes on to say that they want to take casualties with them. It's a very dangerous mindset. It's sick. If all men went MGTOW, there would be war. War? How's that? Even if you accept the impossible scenario of all men going MGTOW, how would that result in war? I'm just living my own life here, like most red-pilled men. Refusing to get married is not an act of war. Is she suggesting that it would be a war between men and women? If so, who would provoke such a conflict? I don't think it would be men. In fact, many feminists have already declared war on men. All men. And they're winning that war of ideas. But this woman is suggesting actual warfare, as in combat. It's absolutely ludicrous. But then, so is the Me Too movement. So this kind of scare tactic may actually sink in with some people. But seeing as I'm one of the MGTOW content creators this woman is attacking, let me throw out a much more realistic scare tactic to the men in my small audience. If you get married, chances are better than average that you'll end up getting divorce raped. Research that, and you'll find compelling evidence confirming this going back decades. By contrast, the MGTOW will lead to war hypothesis typifies the feminine tendency to make emotional appeals and create drama, as opposed to the masculine tendency to rely on logic and verifiable facts. She goes on to talk about entitlement. Entitlement? Really? Our desire for freedom is entitlement? Is she unaware of what happens in divorce court? Or who is taking out more entitlements from the state than they're putting in? I don't expect anything from women, but I am entitled to hold on to whatever resources I earn. Maybe that was her point. It's hard to tell, but I don't recall any men claiming to be entitled to women's resources, just their own. She asked the question, why do you want to corrupt impressionable young minds and drag society down with you? I'm not corrupting anyone's mind. I'm just sharing my experiences. If we're going to talk about corrupting impressionable young minds, we should probably be talking about feminist influence in the educational system. She goes on to state that They think they've discovered a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but they've really just discovered a path to destruction. In my experience, marriage is a path to destruction. And again, I can provide countless examples. In fact, many women literally seek to destroy the men they married when the marriage goes bad. Does the term, "take him for everything he's got," ring any bells? That said, yeah, reclaiming my freedom has been kind of like a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. Call me delusional, but my life is pretty awesome. The video she used as an example is titled, "What It Means to Go My Own Way." The creator states that MGTOW is an individual and personal quest. He states, "I don't need her validation. Her opinions mean nothing to me." And he mentions operating from a position of strength. This triggered the woman, who replied that he's not willing to have a discussion with women because it's weakness to these kinds of men. These men fail to realize that we think highly of our men. We love and adore our men. Well, a lot of women have a funny way of showing it. She may very well love and adore her man, but it's quite a stretch to assume that's the case in all relationships. But here again, we have an attempt to transfer blame to men because we fail to realize something that's verifiably false. She goes on to rant about how leaders should fix it and not let it burn down. The thing is, men didn't fuck everything up. Feminism did. So I say, let women fix it. And she's not qualified to lecture me about leadership anyway, given my military and other professional experience. Shaming tactics like this don't work with MGTOW. Here's something else she said that left me scratching my head. Men don't think they'll live very long. How many of you have lost good women because you think this way? What the fuck, over? I have no idea how long I'll live, and I sure as hell have never lost a good woman because I think this way. In fact, I've never lost a good woman. Period. I've left some horrible women, but have never actually had a good woman and then lost her for any reason, and certainly not because I think I'm going to die soon. But maybe I'm wrong on this. By all means, please post in the comments if you've ever had a unicorn leave you because you thought you wouldn't live very long. Maybe it's a real thing, and I just don't know about it. She goes on, "The truth is you really want women. You always will want women. You can't have women on your terms because your terms suck." Again, just speaking for me, I don't want women in the sense she's implying because their terms suck. I chased the idealized version of having a woman in my life for over 20 years, but it always ended badly for me. If I were to pursue women now, my terms would be friends with benefits only. And I'm fully aware that few women are agreeable to such arrangements because it denies them access to the resources they seek. The fact is, most women's terms require men to risk their wealth, health, and psychological well-being, and many of us consider those terms unacceptable. Women have priced themselves out of the market, and I'm totally fine with it. I have no problem avoiding a bad investment. She states that the healthy version of what you guys are trying to accomplish would basically just be a guy who focuses on his life. He has his own place, he lives alone, he probably travels the world, he doesn't date, he's celibate, he's abstinent, he focuses all of his energy and all of his chi on something else. And he creates. Maybe he's an artist. He's just a self-actualized person who chooses to live a solitary lifestyle that does not harm others. Yep, that's pretty much what I'm doing, and as far as I can tell, that's how most guys are doing it. Yeah, you can cherry pick examples of men still in red pill rage, but then you gotta ask yourself, why are they angry? Did they just wake up mad one day? No, chances are they've endured some very bad experiences. This point gets lost on many people outside the community, especially women. Because, for example, when's the last time you heard about a woman getting screwed over in divorce court or having her life ruined by a false rape claim? It pretty much never happens. But it happens to men every day. And yeah, it pisses them off, and justifiably so. But I suspect, and I hope, that most men get past it and move on to the healthy version that this woman actually describes, or some other version that works for the individual man. This woman then asks, "What if a guy like you were dating your mom? What if it were your daughter? You use your platform to corrupt and poison society." Well, women, being smart, strong, and independent, can make their own choices regarding who they date. Some moms and daughters really like the hookup culture. Hell, women created it during second wave feminism. But of course, this is just another example of the women as victims narrative. She makes a bad decision, then it's the man's fault. Just like the previous example where feminists screw up society and then we get lectured about how we should be leaders and clean up their mess. Personally, I'm far more concerned about what's happening to sons and fathers these days, but that issue wasn't addressed, so moving on. She cites the poor state of the schools and society and suggests we'll make it worse. I addressed this in a previous video. Our schools are gynocentric, and the needs of boys are being ignored. Instead, they're being medicated in an attempt to control their natural behavior and force them to adapt to an environment that was created for girls. As for the poor state of society, that has nothing to do with MGTOW, which is still incredibly small, and everything to do with feminism, which is obviously huge. The claim that will make things worse rings hollow. If a young man is advised to be careful not to get a young woman pregnant, that isn't making anything worse. On the contrary. And if a young man learns about sperm jacking and the dangers of having sex with drunk women, then we just made things better, at least for him. But perhaps this creator was only looking at the impact on females when she was talking about making things worse. For example, if a girl can't get knocked up, how's she going to get access to a guy's resources? And if a guy records verbal consent to sex, how's she going to be able to blackmail him with false rape charges? And if men refuse to get married, then how are women going to be able to collect their cash and prizes when they monkey branch? So yeah, I guess I'll have to concede that MGTOW is making things worse for women, because they're losing some of the leverage they've had for decades. But this is actually in women's best interest, because it helps them to become more independent, which we all know is what they really want, right? The final point this woman makes is a claim that men are crafty, scheming, and strategizing, using pump and dump tactics, which makes you a coward. First off, crafty, scheming, and strategizing describes most women to a T. Second, regarding pump and dump tactics, again, women have to consent to sex, and they often do. But this in itself does not obligate the man to anything. I mean, yeah, if a guy says, "I'll marry you if you have sex with me," and then dumps her, maybe that's kind of an asshole move, but that's not usually how it goes. How it usually goes is the woman willingly jumps into bed with the guy and then assumes that he owes her. I'll even give you an example. I met a woman once who agreed to a short-term, casual sexual relationship with no strings attached. We were two mature adults having an honest conversation. Then, a month or so later, when I was moving out of state like we both knew was going to happen from the get-go, she wanted to go with me, claiming that she gave me a piece of her heart and having a meltdown. I never agreed to that. I never lied to her. I was totally upfront and honest from the moment I met her. Talk about crafty scheming and strategizing. Of course, the claim that practicing casual sex makes one a coward is just your classic shaming tactic. Perhaps her efforts should be directed at encouraging women to, not be sluts. problem solved. But then that would put some responsibility on women, so that idea probably didn't occur to her. Anyway, the video wraps up with a call to spread the word, share the video, and warn women, particularly young women, about the evils of MGTOW. That's why I'm doing a response video, to warn men, particularly young men, that simply staying single and living your own life is going to offend those who want you to fall back into line, do as you're told, and give women what they want. The comments section of this video were mostly women stating, "Yeah, what she said," plus a few MGTOW raising the bullshit flag. The bottom line on this video is that the creator appears under the impression that there's some great recruiting effort going on, when in reality, men like myself are simply speaking out so that others can make informed decisions. Her efforts to warn other women will likely have no effect on MGTOW whatsoever, which begs the question, why even bother doing a response video? My reason for doing so is that it demonstrates that going your own way is proving to be an excellent course of action for growing numbers of men, and with that growth, we'll likely see continued growth in the backlash. That backlash is intended to shame, insult, and cajole men into rejecting their own independence. This video, while intended for women, provides a bit of insight into female thinking. There's name-calling, emotional appeals, manipulation, fear-mongering. It really does have it all. And so, as she spreads her message, I'll continue spreading mine. Don't get married, don't cohabitate, and don't get a woman pregnant. When considering any of the topics related to red pill thinking, factor in your own experience. When you come across things like this woman's video, ask yourself, does anything she's saying make sense in light of your own experience? Also ask yourself if it makes sense in light of other men's experiences. Men don't come to MGTOW by accident, and this particular woman obviously overlooked the overwhelmingly positive experiences men report by going their own way. Her biases are blatantly obvious, and I view it as confirmation that I'm on the right path, and that many other men are also making good decisions. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.